All right, so we're here and we're ready to watch the video. We're going to be doing this side by side, so you're going to get to see the whole video, and then you're going to get to see me reviewing it as we watch it together step by step. So it's going to be super, super cool. And again, I hope you guys like the video. All right, so what you're gonna see is that I started off with my 4 standard segments, and I did start with the center part. A lot of stuff that I've seen is that they start with a side part, which is okay. However, I prefer a center part when you're doing layers because it lives right on top of the head. So anytime they want to flip their hair to the sides and whatnot, it could give them that balance that they're needing when it comes to the shorter layers that live on top of the perimeter. So I'm just continuing on from that center part division line, and I am doing the apex out to the mastoid. And here's another cool tip is that I am clipping my clips really close to the scalp, and it is with the arms up. So I've seen a lot of the clip living right into here. Clip it arms up and really close to the scalp, so that will make a difference and secure your segments a lot neater and better. Okay, and then now I see that I am taking my center back division line. And that's another area that you have to look out for when you're doing your haircuts, is that in the back crown area, we have growth patterns, right? We have splits and whatnot. So we gotta let that fall into place. And then you can also create the center division line right underneath. Okay, so it shows that I have my small scissors. You can use your large scissors or your medium-sized scissors. For layering, I feel that I work best with the small scissors. I also use those for graduation haircuts or any detailed haircuts. Now what I'm doing is I'm combing in the direction of the way I'm going to section the hair. So we do know that part of factors that affect the haircut with round layers, that you need diagonal forward sections, and they start off at the apex and then they come and extend out to your front hairline. So you're gonna see that I start off with that section. In your cutting book, I believe it says a comb's width. My guest here has a fringe, so you're gonna see where I skip that part out and I continue to see where that additional length is at. I'm not sure if you can see how much I removed, but it was very little. I think I removed maybe about an inch or 2 in this haircut. So it was just a trim. She didn't want a lot of layers in her hair. She just wanted some removal of weight, which is really good when you have layers and a lot of hair. So that's a really good technique if you have a lot of hair. Create some long layers, remove some weight. So here you're gonna see that I'm trying to get all my controls together. I'm checking for body position. I'm checking for my finger angle and my section angle. And I am making sure that I do not lose that tension that I'm creating for my first section. I did start off with 1 section, and now I'm on step 2, which is my second section. And I do have forward over direction. And what I'm doing to create that forward over direction is that I'm bringing in my previously cut, my new section of hair into my previously cut hair. In core, when you do round layers, you take very, 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 very small sections. In this case, you're with your guest. Everybody's density is gonna be a little bit different. Sections might vary a little bit as far as like section angles. And for me, I'm already on step 3 here, and I'm using a traveling guide. So I know that if it took me like 3 steps to cut there, it's gonna take me the same on the other side, or 3 or 4, whatever the case may be. So keep that in mind, because that's what's gonna help you speed up the process within haircuts. What I'm doing now is I am cross-checking. So you're gonna see that I got it on top of the head, and I took a horizontal section and I'm bringing it straight up. You can't really see what I was looking for, but what I was looking for is the round shape. So anytime you take a horizontal section, you are going to see from shorter to longer. So shorter in the front and longer in the back. You're going to just see a slight shift, especially because I was using a traveling guide. If it was using a stationary guide where I bring all sections into one, then you're going to see more of that shorter in the front and longer in the back. But here, because I use a traveling, I'm seeing this much of a difference. And if you've already done round layers, of course you've done cord, you're going to understand what I'm talking about when you're doing your cross check of just seeing like a slight difference. All right, so now I am right where the ear's at. Oh, what am I doing? Wait. Oh, okay, cool. So what I did is I grabbed the sections that I'm no longer working with and I pulled them to the side across her forehead and I clipped them out of the way just because it looks a lot neater. You want to work pretty and clean. I just moved it out of my way and I continued on with my traveling guide, and I'm like right in front of the ear. And I'm combing the hair down now, and I'm looking for the way the hair falls. This is where we, I don't want to say extend, or we continue on with the back segment. So when I stopped right where the ear's at, or where the mastoid process is at, I said to myself, that is going to be your last section for the front segment. However, moving to your back segment, you're going to continue on using your last section as your first section now for the back. So now I'm bringing step 2 into my step 1, if that makes any sense. And notice that I move around. So I did have to walk in front of her, walk behind her, just to get a clean, nice pie section. And then I went back to where my over direction needed to be at. Everything at the elevation was cut at was 90 degrees from the apex. So it's gonna be, again, very subtle of layers, nothing too dramatic. Oh, and there goes my clip. Okay, so now I'm going on to my next section. I got my pie section, and it's still starting from the apex all the way down. It's gonna be very, very narrow, just like a pizza slice, and then it's very wide at the end of the hairline. So I'm bringing it back up, looking for my guide. I see that my perimeter has dropped out, which is perfect because I know that I'm not gonna cut into that, and everything else will just slowly blend into the lane. This is where your guest would come in. They say, I want one layer. Not that that's what it looks like, giving them one layer, but I feel that sometimes guests say one layer because they're meaning to say that they don't want a lot of layers. So that's how I take it, but I always ask for visuals just to be safe, because sometimes they'll say they want their one layer here, and I'm like, there's no such thing in the world, but okay, let's do that. Okay, so bringing that straight up. pull away my section that I don't need, and then I bring in my new section into the previously cut section. And notice that I'm clipping everything out of the way into my first segment. Stay nice and neat. Those duckbill clips, the metal ones, I live for. They're just really great. They give a lot of control, especially when it comes to pixie cuts. So if you have those, make sure you take care of them or invest in getting some more. All right, so I'm still pivoting at the apex, and I'm still with my pie sections and utilizing a traveling guide. So you could change your elevation. You could use a stationary guide. Again, this is the fundamental exercise of what you saw in core. However, they weren't with small sections, and this is on a live guest, so it's a little different. So you get to see both. You get to see how it was done on Deborah, and you get to see how it was done on a guest. Keeping that elevation high, right 90 degrees at the apex. All right. So you're gonna see how I moved around the head, and now I'm going towards the center back division line, and I'm working up to my last section, keeping the same elevation. All my controls are the same. Now I'm tilting the head forward, just so that way I can get my section all the way down at the hairline. And I'm getting ready to do this extra step that I feel that everybody always forgets. It's in your skill cards, it's in the cutting DVD, you will see it. This is just so that way you won't have that weight carried in the back. So once you get to the center back division line, what you need to do is carry on one more section past your center back division line. So I'm going one past center back, and I am just gonna keep it at the same elevation. And yeah, you can see how it's already like off-centered. So I'm keeping the same elevation, the same controls, the same method on all of that. All right, so from here, so that's what happened. We did I guess there was a little glitch on here, but what I did was one center back, and I elevated up the same way and cut it. And then after that, I reset into my 4 standard segments. And now I'm continuing to do the same thing on the other side. So here I'm just making sure I have the right balance of sections the way I first started. And now I'm starting with my pie section. Keeping in mind of how I started on one side is what I want to do to the other. It's kind of like working out at the gym. You're not going to just work out one arm and then not work out the other, right? You want to have them look the same. You don't want one muscular than the other. So it's kind of that same method. What you do to one side and you'll do to the other. However, if it's something for an editorial look or something like that, then that's different. I don't see any editorial looks for one, like super gains on one side of the arm and less on the other. So the difference of going into your non-dominant side on round layers is it really has a lot to do with your controls. It has a lot to do with your body position. So notice that my body position changed. I also moved her as well, so that way you can have a good visual. So she was once facing one side and now she's facing the other. And I'm standing on the opposite side of my section because I know that I'm right in front of her, and if I bring it towards me, it's gonna carry on that forward over direction that I need for round layers. So anything that I wanna keep, I'm gonna stand away from. So I'm standing right in front. I wanna keep more length of the layers in the back So you stand away from it. So stand in front of your section. So keeping in mind that I'm staying at the apex, taking my pie sections, doing the same thing what I did to the other side. If you really practice these fundamental exercises, it will really speed up the process in your haircuts. You don't want to spend an hour cutting the hair and then you still got to blow dry, and then your guest is frustrated because they've been there very, very long. So you want to make sure you're practicing these haircuts on your Deborah doll heads. Even if it's just practicing the sections, I would recommend doing that because that's what's going to speed up the process in your haircuts. And I mean, honestly, that's going to help you in the long run if you're going to be in the beauty industry, because if you're faster and your quality is great, then you're going to have more clients and you're going to be making more of the hours. So get started now that you're in school. All right, so here you're gonna see where I'm on my last section, keeping that elevation there. You see the hair drop out, and that's fine. I'm cross-checking again. So I know in core they say to cross-check every 3 sections, but that's gonna take a while too. So practice your fundamental skills and do practice cross-checking. Once you start doing that more, you're gonna notice that you're able to eyeball things a lot better and hold your controls a lot better. So that way you don't have to cross-check that much. But I can tell you this, the more you practice and the more you get the fundamental exercise down, the less cross-checking you have to do, right? And the less refinement. Sometimes you won't even need any point cutting, anything like that, because your haircut was just that great. Creating the basic shape was just that great. So it just depends again on the fabric of hair you're working on, but yeah, it's do it right or do it twice. So again, I'm starting to move towards the back segment, and in the back segment, I'm combining that last front section to my back. So that is now going to be my new section for the back segment. And I'm going to continue with my apex sections, bringing everything straight up 90 degrees at the apex. And I am allowing the perimeter to drop out, and then I would just cut from there. All right, so pretty much from there, you are just going to continue on with your sections, and then you will, let's see where we're at actually. I think I had another little glitch. Okay, yeah, so then you're gonna continue on from there and you're gonna work towards your center back section. So I'm just, again, repeating the same process. So again, it's just understanding your body position. If I do this to one side and I was standing this certain way for a certain reason, I'm gonna have to do the same thing to the other. So I need to stand on the opposite side this time. I have to check my control. And what I mean by, I bring it up a lot, but it's very important. Checking your controls is part of your lower body position, my upper body position, my hand position, my cutting line, my section angle, if everything's parallel. Those are what I'm talking about as far as your control, your tension, your everything. That has everything to do with your controls. And I didn't do a stationary guide. I kept it a traveling guide all the way around. Another important thing is that you can see a little bit of her hair drying out, but what I've experienced out sometimes in the clinic floor, and I feel like it's a challenge for the future professionals, is that sometimes we think that, oh no, the hair is still well saturated enough for me to continue on with this haircut, but sometimes it's not. You really have to keep that hair saturated, so that way you can make sure that you have you'll end up having a good end result. All right, so now I am towards the back of the section. So remember what I told you on the other side? We did one pass center back, and you'll see me there with my comb that I'm doing one pass center back. I'm just showing you a visual, and I'm gonna take that section, and that's gonna even out the hair, so it won't have that weird weighted, weight in the back. So if I cross them, I'll take that off. And the same thing goes for your round one length, or like say if you're doing a V cut, it's the same thing. Round and V is the same thing, it's just more exaggerated. If you're doing your round graduation here on the below the parietal ridge, you want to do your crossover, so that way you don't have so much weight down at the back of the center. That's great. So here I am removing my clips. I'm getting ready for my next step, combing the hair down. What I'm looking for is how the hair falls. Her hair's so shiny and pretty. So you can notice already that her hair has a very, very little movement, because I didn't cut a lot of layers. It was just very, very subtle. All right, now we are blow dried and smoothed out, and we are ready for some point cutting. So this is where it gets a little fun, because I originally did this video. So I did this video just to practice the fundamental exercises, but my guest here did want subtle, but she did want more weight removed. So I was like, this is a perfect opportunity for me to show round layers with some point cutting. So I blow dried her hair and I smoothed it out. And now I am refining her hair with point cutting. So I started off in the front, and I am taking large sections, and I am doing some point cutting. Notice that my body should be right in front of her. Why? Because I need that forward over direction. But I know it's hard to tell, but I am pushing forward so that way I can still get that forward over direction. I would recommend to practice that first. Practice the fundamental ways first before you get into getting a little creative like I did. It's still taking vertical sections. I'm bringing everything up 90 degrees. I'm removing a little bit of weight. I'm just point cutting at this point. So with point cutting, I feel that everybody gets scared because they're like, oh my God, I'm gonna cut my fingers. Oh my God, I'm gonna cut my fingers. Well, in this case, it's practice, of course. I've cut my fingers before. So you want to make sure you get the scissors in, and you will, as soon as it's getting close, you can back out. Sometimes your stationary blade will hit and you'll know like, oh, now I can back up and then close my shears as I am going away from my fingers. Because if you don't, then you will cut yourself. My guest does have a fringe again, and she, I believe I did do something with her face frame, so We're gonna get to see that as well. Hopefully it's in there. And here you'll notice that the way I started off with round layers, I was super precise. I mean, I'm still precise, but you can tell that I'm having a little bit more fun with this, just because it's not your standard haircut, it's just with a twist. So do know that round layers, the fundamental exercise that you see in your skill cards, does not have to be cut straight out. You can point cut that. So maybe that might bring some spice into your life. Here you'll see that I do have my scissors slightly tilted to the side, because here I'm point cutting, but I'm also removing some length. I did comb her fringe because when you're point cutting, you're gonna see all these little sprinkles of hair fall everywhere, tickle her nose and everything. So be mindful to your guests, and maybe wipe it down with a towel, blow dry, turn on the blow dryer to knock it off on them, because it is a little annoying to have little sprinkles of hair on your nose. I've had it done. So now I'm in the back section, still continue on with my point cutting. And you're gonna see that I'm working with my guide, and I am removing some weight and just having fun. That's what it's all about, is having fun. Haircuts, I know in the beginning it is scary. We're like, what am I doing? I can't find my guide, I can't do this. That's normal. But we're here to show you the resources that you have, where you can look at, where you can know, okay, I can look at this and I can practice, or let me research this. You have all those resources, and I'm telling you, if you just practice, it will get easier and you will not feel that way. All right, so I'm gonna just move on here. Okay, so here I just continued on with the point cutting all the way around, taking vertical sections. So it was pretty much same thing all the way around. Again, with your point cutting, you're just bringing it in and out. If you're trying to remove like that blunt line, just remove about 10%. If you're trying to remove length with point cutting, you bring your scissors at an angle and it'll help remove. Okay, so here we are looking into our face frame, and fun, I have my razor. Anytime you're cutting with the razor, you are to cut how? I don't hear it. You, in your hand position, it should be palm to palm. Yes, palm to palm. However, that just because you're cutting palm to palm doesn't mean you're cutting in hand. You're cutting overhand, but in the same position that it would be palm to palm. So here again, I'm having fun with my razor. I am trying to determine how short I want to go. I'm looking at how the hair falls. I'm looking at all that fun stuff. So I started off on the heavy side of the hair, and I wanted to see how that was gonna fall. And I started with at the top part of that section, and then slowly tapering it down in towards the length. Now, when you're using your razor, it's important to utilize your razor the right way. You can easily make the big bucks with your razor if you just know how to use it. So the way you want to hold your razor is at a 45-degree angle. So just kind of tilt it on the handle, you'll tilt it on the side and it'll be at a 45-degree angle. And then you're just slide cutting. Now, you're not moving your wrist, you're twisting it with your fingers. So you're doing a very little movement in your wrist or in your hand. If you're doing this, you're gonna just be chomping off hair, and your guest is gonna be like, ow, that hurts. So you gotta be careful when you're doing razor cuts. Just know the proper way to do them. You can use razors for so many things. You can do it for a one length. You can do it for texturizing purposes, removing bulk, a face frame, a fringe, a graduation, a pixie cut, so many things. So you can easily charge more just because you know how to use the tool. So that's something that you also want to look into. The best way is ask your learning leader. Again, you know your resources, ask your learning leader. Hey, I have this razor in my kit. I haven't used it. It's still in the plastic little baggie. Can you show me how to use it? Sure. It's a quick sure. You know, sometimes we do have specialty classes on that, but you know what's better is to have that one-on-one. If you see that your learning leader's available, why not? Okay, so here I did interior slide cutting. So you might have seen your learning leader do like slide cutting here in the front. Okay, so here I did interior slide cutting. So you might have seen your learning leader do like slide cutting here in the front, and you're like, wow, it's like the coolest thing. Well, you know what's even cooler is that you can reverse it. Let's lift the hair in elevation and slide cut up. How cool is that? So what that technique does, it really helps remove weight. A fun thing to do when you're working with the one length, and they have high density fabric of hair. Have you ever cut a one length and then it ended up looking like a Christmas tree when you like done and did all your work? You blow dried, you leafed, you beveled, you smoothed, or whatever you did, whatever you could, and it's super nice and clean here at the top, and then it's just thick right at the bottom. This is another good technique to do, is that you elevate the hair enough and you'll see where the perimeter drops out, and you can just start slide cutting. This is not painful at all to your guest. If it does feel painful, or if it feels like you're ripping hair, it's probably because you need to get your shears sharpened or oiled. So double check on that. I remember I had an experience when this was when I was in phase 2, and we had a future professional that needed some assistance with their guests to remove weight, and they were working with a minor, right? So a little girl, and mom was watching the haircut. And so I go in there and okay, so thanks for watching. This is the end. So I go in there, I'm gonna go back to the story. So I go in there and I just start doing interior texturizing, where I'm lifting the hair even though it was already cut on length, and I'm just, and you just see hair flying everywhere. And the mom comes and she stops me. She's like, I didn't want any more length removed. And she was very, very scared for her daughter because she thought I was removing weight. Two things. One, they've had a terrible experience, one at a salon, where they removed the length that they did not want. Two, she's never seen anything like that done. So if she's gone to salons in different places and she's never seen that done, you already utilizing this technique is gonna set you far apart, way more. It's gonna give you more, it's gonna take you to another advanced level as a hairstylist, because you have the knowledge. So, when, the mom stopped me, I talked to the mom and I was like, okay, I understand you're freaking out. Totally normal. You should see hair flying. Be honest, right? So I showed her a couple of sections, and I really educated the mom to give her an understanding of what I was really doing. So just by really owning up to my words and knowing what I was doing, the mom was like, oh my God, it's so much better. It makes sense. Oh, wow. and totally amazed. That is going, and especially if it's the mom, that is going to give so much loyalty to your guests. You can do this technique on layers, on a one length. I wouldn't really say a graduation unless you're doing slide cutting down, but yeah, you can utilize this technique on any of your guests. It is a really good technique to use. It looks scary, but I'm just gonna say it again, just practice, because it will get you better. Cutting can be scary because you're cutting hair and it falls to the floor and you can't glue it back on. But to me, that's what makes it more exciting. That's what pushes me more into the challenge of wanting to know everything about hair cutting. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and had this little one-on-one with me, this little walkthrough. This is the first time I'm doing this, so I actually enjoyed it, and I hope this kept you engaged in watching this whole entire video. Again, yeah, just I hope you enjoyed the video and that you practice everything that you have in your bag. Your books, look at them, look at your cutting book, look at your, everything on your guests, on your doll head. Just practice, and I promise you, your fear will go away, especially if it's hair cutting. Don't get mistaken and say, oh, I don't like hair cutting just because you're scared. Don't do that. Move away from that fear, and make that challenge or discovery of victory for yourself. So thank you again so much for watching, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna have some more time together, maybe on another video, who knows. But until next time, and you guys have a great day.